What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now, as you can see by the huge array of boxes that we have here, it's time for the Moza review video. Now, if you've seen my previous sim racing upgrade video, then you will have seen that we got a bunch of Moza gear. I've been using these items for some weeks now, so I feel like I'm pretty qualified to go ahead and now give you my full thoughts, opinions, and review of the products themselves. I'm not going to bore you too much with unboxing here, but I will bring the products in for a quick close-up so we can take a look at the details of each item before throwing it all onto the sim racing rig to get some gameplay footage where I'll be able to give you my full review, thoughts, and opinion on all of this Moza equipment behind me. Let's get into it. So first up, let's take a look at the Moza R9 V2 base. Now, I'm no sim racing or sim equipment expert. This is my first direct drive wheel. So I can only give you my experiences, my opinions, and my reviews on the items that I have in front of me. But this is a very solid base. Now, it's not the biggest out there. I have relatively small hands and my hands can kind of cover it. I can hold it in one hand. It is quite a heavy unit. There is a lot of weight behind this thing, and that's because I guess it's a direct drive wheel. There is a lot of stuff inside actually making this thing work. So because of the weight, it does feel super good quality. Now let's take a quick look at the back here for some of the ports. You have a USB port, which is how you're going to get this connected to your PC. There is a DC input, that's how you're going to get power. And then there's various other little ports down here for different and optional accessories. So you've got pedal, dash, SHF, HB, and E-stop. Now, we don't have all of these, so we don't use all of these slots, but they're there on the wheel should you want to use them. And then there's one little button over here for the power, and that's just a simple on-off switch right there. Taking a quick look at the front of the wheel, you will notice that there are 4 holes available, and this is to provide different mounting options onto your base. We don't use these personally, so we don't worry about them. Take a quick look at the underside. These are the holes that we use to mount our base to our rig, and we actually mount the base upside down at this kind of angle, which gives us a better angle for when we're using the truck wheel. We will visit that a little bit later in this video. Then the one final piece to take a look at is the stem part here, which is Moza's quick release system. Now, these little connectors on the front is how your wheel makes contact, and that's how it draws power and works. But these little dimples or grooves in the wheel, this is their quick release system. So on each of the wheels, there are bearings or ball bearings that actually fill these holes. So as soon as it slides on, it clicks into place, it is locked in, but to lift the wheels off, it is as simple as just pulling the stem up and the wheel pops off. Again, we will see this a little bit later in the video, but just something I wanted to highlight whilst we're looking at the base. I don't know how many people are really going to be worried about the looks, but in terms of how this thing looks, it's pretty subtle with a little bit of Moza branding on the left and right side of the base with a little Moza logo just up there. A very cool, but quite a small, compact base, but it works perfectly for what we need it for. So we've took a look at the base, and for our pedals of choice, we've got the SRP racing pedals. We do actually also have a clutch, but we'll look at that in just a second. So this here is the throttle. Like I said, I have lightly used these, so I'm already pretty familiar about how well they work and how to get them plugged in. But for those of you who don't know, these are the pedals. There are some holes underneath, some screws here, and there is some padding. So this padding is going to help, obviously, if you're having it on the floor or on your sim rig. This is going to just help with grip and give it a little bit of cushion. From this throttle, you then can plug in your brake position sensor, your clutch, and your brake load cell. This plugs into itself. Then, of course, you can connect this to the wheelbase. So obviously the wheelbase will recognize your pedals, and USB again, because you're going to need to power these on by plugging them into your computer just to get them recognized as well. So the second pedal here is obviously going to be the brake pedal, and these are the cables. Obviously, we just saw you plug the brake into the throttle, and that is how you get them recognized. If you have the clutch, you're going to plug the clutch into the throttle as well, and then the throttle is connected to your computer, and that's how you get the whole system running. So in here we get quite a stiff brake. Obviously this is a brake pedal, so it's going to be quite tough. I was sent out a spring kit as well, so we can take a quick look at that, but I'm likely going to leave that spring in there because it feels pretty good. This is the SRP accessory kit, so there's a couple of springs in there and maybe some sort of dampener. I'm probably not going to use these, at least not right away. The brake pedal feels pretty good as it is straight out of the box with this yellow spring there. It's quite tough, I must admit, but it feels good. And then same with the throttle. It's got some nice feedback, but it feels very smooth. Again, I have quickly used these, so I am quite familiar with how they work and how they feel, and they do feel amazing. So this is going to allow you to obviously connect it up to your sim rig, or you can simply connect the pedals underneath here. There's simply 4 screws for each, and then you can have this on the floor. Your feet are going to rest on here, which is going to keep this nice and secure and stop it from lifting or falling over. This will be on the floor. You'll have your pedals connected underneath. So it's going to be pretty stable whether you're on a sim racing rig or using it at your desk, which is nice for the people who don't have a rig and want to use these at their desk. So this is what the pedals look like once they're attached to the frame or the foot plate. The foot plate holds them all in nicely. They're spread apart quite well. So of course you're going to be able to do some drifts by kicking the clutch. You've got your brake pedal and your gas. They're all held on, like we said before, by 4 screws straight into the foot plate there. And if we turn it over and take a look at the cabling, obviously everything connects through to one another, and they're made quite clever. So there is like little channels in here. So this cable from the clutch goes through this little channel through there straight into the accelerator, and that's how everything is connected. We've then got to go ahead and connect this to the wheel by this cable here, and then to the PC itself via this USB cable there. So next up we have the handbrake and the shifter. Let's go ahead and take a look at the shifter quickly on its own. So again, the Moza Racing logo and branding on the front here. It's not too heavy of a unit. I mean, it's full metal. It does feel solid. It feels very good. I'm just saying it's not overly heavy considering the weight of like the base and things. So underneath there are various different slots available that you can use to mount this thing. I think if you actually take a look here, you can see that I use these ones up here. There might be, there we go, there's some damage slightly there from the screw that I'm using. So I use these to mount it to my rig. But of course there are loads of holes under here depending on the pattern or whatever on your rig. You can match those holes up. So this is a 7-speed shifter. As you can see, there are 7 gears, and of course you get a reverse gear up there. Now the reverse gear and 7th gear actually work pretty cool, where you actually have to push the shifter down. So hopefully you can see that on the video. So I'll just go ahead and do that again. There is a little bit of sort of downward motion that you can push it down. So if I go all the way over here, it will not let me into reverse. You have to push down and then you can get into reverse. So similar to like cars, my Fiesta, you usually pull the handbrake up. You have like a little bit here that you lift up. But on this, you push it down, and then that will allow you to go into 7th or reverse. Now, shifting this thing whilst it's on the desk is actually quite tough. Obviously, you have this mounted, so it's pretty sturdy down to the base. But the gear shifts are pretty cool. They do make a super satisfying clicking sound. It does annoy the missus when she's in bed, and this is all she hears all night. So just something to bear in mind. But the gear stick is actually incredible. For the price, it's actually really good. I've not used any other gear sticks before, so again, I can only talk about my experiences with the items that I have in front of me, but this has been a game changer, just making my sim racing experience way more immersive. So this is a fantastic optional extra. If you do have a sim racing rig, I would highly suggest getting yourself a shifter and a handbrake. And then just taking a quick look at the back, you have a USB slot for getting this connected to your PC and a transit cable. Now, I don't use this, and I believe that you can use these transit slots to connect this to your base and dash and things like that. I use a USB slot, which goes into a USB hub, and then that goes straight into the PC, and that's how I get this connected. So next up, let's take a look at the handbrake. Now, there is the Moza Racing indentation there, and if we flip it over, there is the usual white logo and branding that we expect to see. On the underneath, there are various different slots, again, that you can use to mount this to your rig. Currently, with my rig, I actually only use 1 bolt here at the front, but because it's a handbrake and you're pulling it backwards, this actually does a good enough job at keeping it stable. There is the inside of the handbrake there. There are some adjustments that you can make with the spring inside this bit. You can take this off and make some adjustments in there. I haven't bothered. It feels pretty good straight out of the box. Other adjustments that you can do is actually the angle of the handbrake itself. And that's because this little part here, this is almost like a pivot, and there are various different options and settings on how you can have this mounted. So of course, you can have the handbrake standing more upright if you wanted it to be more upright, or you can have it at a slight angle like how I have it here. So when it's sitting, it's more of an angle which feels a bit more natural to pull when I'm sitting at the rig. But again, there are options. You can mount this vertical and then have it so you're pulling it like that. This just felt really good for me and really comfortable whilst I was on the rig. In terms of getting this connected up, again, there is a transit slot and a USB slot. I use the USB only. This goes again straight into my USB hub, which then connects to the PC, and it works just fine. So the handbrake itself is actually really good. This is me fully pulling it back there. So there's quite a bit of travel, but not too much. I use it just mostly on drifting games, or of course I do use it on some truck sim, and that is literally just for handbrake on handbrake off. It is as simple as that. Again, I fully recommend, especially for the price, picking yourself up a handbrake if you're into drifting or things like that. The handbrake and the shifter really do take sim racing experience to a whole nother level. Now it's time we check out the wheels, and of course we're starting on the smallest wheel before moving on to the biggest. This is the KS steering wheel, which is essentially a Formula 1 or GT style of wheel. Now when you get this out of the box, these buttons here do not have stickers on. It comes with a whole sticker pack, and these are actually little stickers on top of all these buttons here that I've already gone ahead and placed. Now all of these are backlit, so you can change the colors in the software on all of these buttons. The software is fantastic, and we will take a look at that a little bit later on in this video. I just wanted to get a quick close-up of all the products, so that is including all the wheels. So of course there are various different buttons here, and they all have a very satisfying click to them. There are two directional analog sticks over here and over here. So of course you don't specifically need to use a mouse or a controller. Depending on what game you're playing, you can use these to navigate the menu or perhaps even run your character around, again, depending on what game you're playing. There are two dials for your thumb. You have one over here on the right-hand side and one over here on the left, so they go both ways. Then we have three dials in the center of the wheel here. So we have a dial here, which can be twisted all the way around, both left and right, and then again for this one over here, and finally this one over here. So there are tons of buttons and dials and options in terms of which you can map all your buttons to, so you're not going to run out of any space for key bindings. It's finished in this cool sort of carbon style effect. It's quite a lightweight wheel, and both sides have a rubber-like textured grip, which is going to be pretty good for long gameplay sessions and is going to help if you get sweaty hands. Flipping the wheel over, we can see the paddles. Now this actually does have 4 paddles, as you can see. There's the 2 lower ones and the 2 taller ones up here. Now you can bind these to whatever you want, but these are likely to be used as clutch pedals. And then up here are your gear shifts. So they have a super satisfying click. You take a close-up look there. It's almost like a magnetic material here, I think, that just helps sort of pull that back into place. So it's a super satisfying click and nothing too noisy or too over the top with the gear shifts. Same with the paddles underneath. They just sort of pull in, hit the end, and then stop right there. There's no click to them whatsoever. They just pull and release. There's one port here on the wheel, and that's just underneath here. I think that's for connecting it to a dash. And then, of course, we have Moza's quick release mounting system here. This is what we took a look at for the R9 base. These are the ball bearings that slot into that base. Once you push it in, it clicks into place. This slides out, and the wheel is locked in place. You cannot remove it until you slide this up. This is currently in the slid up mode. Once it's connected, it goes flat, that goes forward, locks the wheel into place, and then again for the quick release, it's just a case of grabbing it, pulling it up, and you pull your wheel off. It is super, super simple. Overall, I think this wheel looks absolutely incredible. Of course, we do have the LED lights up here for gear shift indicators. The wheel isn't on currently. We will show you the wheels in action once they are on. But just for a close-up, this thing looks incredible. The finish of it is fantastic. The buttons are really good quality, as are the analog sticks. And of course, the grip texture that you're going to be holding for your entire racing is very, very nice in your hands. It feels amazing to race with. Next up is the CS V2P steering wheel. Now this is sort of a mid-size steering wheel. This isn't as big as the truck wheel, and of course it's bigger than the Formula 1 GT style wheel. This is what I use for drifting and sort of any other just general car driving or car racing game. Now this wheel is noticeably heavier than all of the other wheels I have. There is quite a bit of heft and weight to this thing. It is a really, really solid, heavy-duty wheel. But there is this sort of finish here. You can see if I move that left to right, you can kind of see the texture on it there. And then again, the buttons, there are tons of buttons. So you have multiple buttons with a very satisfying click again. Then you still get your 2 analog sticks. So again, you can use this to control menus or run your character around. And then we get 2 different sets of dials, one there, and again, one there. The leather grip around the wheel feels amazing to hold. It feels pretty decent quality, and the stitching is pretty good all the way around the wheel. That is something that I have noticed, and I've been pretty impressed with Moza's quality throughout since unboxing and using these items. We do have a little indicator up here, and I believe these are put on wheels for drifting, so you can kind of see which way your wheel is at a quick glance. We'll flip it over and take a quick look at the back. Of course, we still get the quick release mounting system here. This is amazing for all of their wheels. They are very, very good. And then again, as you can see, we actually get 4 paddles yet again. So you get your 2 lower paddles down here. They do spring back, but there's not as much as a click to them, if that makes sense. And then the ones up here, which sort of have that click, but also do spring back. An overall very amazing wheel. I actually very enjoy playing this. I use this for rallying, I use this for drifting. It's such a heavy duty wheel. It feels amazing in your hands. It feels amazing to use. I love this wheel. And last but not least, we have the truck wheel. Now this thing is gigantic. I've had to zoom the camera all the way out and you can still kind of just about get it into view there. Now this thing is incredible, and this is exactly what you want if you're into truck simming, or to be fair, I even use it for farming sim because it's just great for lorries, and it kind of gives you that feel as if you're driving a real life lorry or a tractor or something like that. So like the other 2 wheels, we do have the LED indicator up here, but again, it's not on. We'll show you that once they're plugged in and you can see that a little bit better. We've got some Moza Racing logo and brand in there. This is sort of like an emblem. Taking a look at some of the buttons, there are tons of buttons, and these match what I would assume would be on most truck wheels. So you have got indicators there, you've got buttons for your lights, buttons for what would be cruise control, your wipers, setting menus, home. You've got 2 analog sticks, one over here and one over here, which seems to be a theme with all of Moza's wheels. I do love that. Over here, you've got some buttons for essentially what would be cruise control, a horn button, so increase your cruise up and down. Over here, volume down, volume up, or mute. Those are all the buttons that you get on this wheel. Now, they're not as satisfying to press as the other wheels. They do still give some nice feedback, and they do still have a nice click, but the other buttons feel very much like big buttons that you press, whereas these are quite flat. They don't have the same sort of satisfying feel to it, but I guess that's because it's not a racing wheel, it's more of a truck simulator wheel. But it does a very good job with all of the buttons. Again, you get lots to keybind with, so you're not going to run out of rooms on buttons in which you can press. And then you do get 2 scroll wheels, one to the left, which goes up and down, and again, one to the right, just there. Flipping the wheel over, you get the quick release system yet again, a running feature, and amazing at the same time. There is a slot down here for a dash as well, but we don't use that. Little bit of Moza branding on the top. But in terms of feel of this thing, the actual material and stitching around the wheel feels incredible. It's super soft, but yet very durable and hard at the same time. Like, for the price, you can tell that this is made out of quality material, as are all of their wheels. But when using this, it's not like it's given me any sort of blisters on my hands. It's not been uncomfortable to use. It's a real joy to sit with and actually truck sim using this wheel. I think it's now at this point we need to go ahead and get them connected to the rig, and I'll go ahead and show you how the quick release system works. Right guys, before we go ahead and get these connected to the base that's on the sim rig, I did just want to show off the solution that I have for storing away these wheels. Now, I did include this in the previous video, but you might not have seen that. But now I'm making use of Moza's awesome quick release system, and now I mount my wheels to the door, which means that they're out of the way and I'm not forever bumping over these wheels in the room. Now, I found these mounts on a website. I can leave the link in the description if you're interested, but you just simply mount these to either a door or a wall. It's supposed to be a wall, but we have no wall space, so I actually went ahead and connected these to the door instead. Now, at this point, these have the same divots and grooves in as the R9 base, or as any of their bases, so your wheels simply slot on and the quick release mechanism locks it into place. So I'm going to go ahead and just slot the wheel on now just to show you how it works, and then I'll bring you in for a closer look. So you just grab your wheel, simply line it up, push it, and that is now locked in place. Those wheels are not coming off whatsoever. I just wanted to bring you in for a slight closer look. Again, you just disconnect it by pulling this part forward. It pulls off just like so, and then again you line it up. It snaps straight into place. It's super clever. And again, to take it off, this part up here is the quick release mechanism. As long as you pull that back, both top and underneath, it pulls forward and you can unmount it just like that. It really is awesome. Now, I'm not going to teach anyone how to suck eggs here or show you how to mount your gear. I just wanted to highlight something about the size of this base. Now, I think some people might be put off because they think this is a small base and perhaps that means it's not very good. That isn't the case, but anyway, the reason why this is fantastic is this is the wheel plate where you would usually mount your wheels, but I don't have enough room here with the desk, the TV, and it doesn't quite give me the angle that I was looking for. And this is why the R9 is perfect for my style, because I can actually slide this in like so, and now I can mount the base upside down and it gives me the perfect angle for truck simming. If the base was any bigger, it would not fit this gap right here. So I'm really happy that the R9 is the size that it is. So now it's time to get the wheel attached to the base. Apologies for this section of the video. You're going to kind of be looking at the back of my head, but I'm unsure how else to show you the gameplay and everything in use. So we're just going to have to make do. So you take your wheel and just simply pop it on like so. That is now connected. The button on the underside, you just have to make sure that you turn that on. That is now connected. Now at this point, we can begin driving Euro Truck Sim with our truck wheel. So we're just going to go ahead. I don't know where we've left off. I'm just going to go ahead, do a little bit of driving so you can see the gear stick in action, the wheel in action, and of course the pedals in action as well. So you can see that I can accelerate here, but I am going to have to go ahead and select the first gear. Otherwise, we're not going to go anywhere. Truck gears being they are what they are, you do have to get up to speed relatively quickly, so you do go through the gears quite fast. But this is exactly what I was talking about with an enhanced experience. Being able to manual shift with a gear stick whilst playing a game like Truck Simulator on a truck wheel is just simply amazing. The other point I was making about the angle of the wheel, I feel like I'm trying to replicate what I see in game. And this is why I mount the R9 base upside down to give me that slightly better angle, more adjusted and more suited to what I imagine driving a truck would be like. I've never driven a truck, so I have no idea. Let me know if you know. So pulling into the services here, you can indicate, you can go down your gears, you can brake. Obviously, you can do absolutely everything that you'd expect to be able to do with this wheel and manual shifter and handbrake setup. It's just so much fun. So I'm just going to pull into this rest station here. We're just going to pull over to the right hand side. Then of course, park up, bang it into neutral, handbrake on. It really is incredibly fun to use this wheel, this manual shifter and this handbrake in this way. So now the truck wheel is on, there's no better time to show you how the LEDs work. Of course, we have got the LED indicator now come to life. This doesn't work when playing Truck Sim because I guess it just doesn't show you your revs. So the buttons look way more nicer with the LED backlight just shining through like so. And that is on all of the buttons there. You can see the LED lights. I'm going to come in a little bit closer because it's hard to show you on camera. Hopefully that will do a good enough job at just showing you the LED lights being on the wheel like so. Now, before getting the other wheels installed, I just wanted to go ahead and show you the Moza Pit House software. This software is incredible and is pretty much going to be your go-to for all of the settings across all of your devices. So instantly we can see that it's recognized that we've got the truck wheel attached like so. You can even see the angle in which we're turning the wheel. That matches up absolutely perfect. In here, you have the ability to change your maximum steering angle. So depending on the game, you can pick different options in there. Over here, we have the R9 base. I currently have mine set to 40% on feedback. Again, you can adjust that game to game. And then finally, the SRP pedals. And down here, you can see all of the dials going up as I'm pressing each individual pedal like so. So like with the clutch, it's not going all the way to max. My foot is all the way planted. You can go ahead and hit set max. That is now the new max. So that will go all the way up. This is why this Moza Pit House software is so good. To the right here, you have a game launcher. So you can actually configure your gear for each game. And that's to configure like the LED indicators and things like that. And going through, you've got so many settings. Half of these settings I don't even look at, for force feedback, different curves of the R9 base, again in here for the wheel. This is something that we'll take a quick look at because a lot of you will probably be interested in this. You can change the RPM LEDs, you can change the telemetry LEDs. One thing you can do is change the LED backlights of each individual button. So if we go ahead and select that to red, you now see that that goes to red on the wheel. If we go to blue, it's now blue on the wheel. But I like to keep them on white because I think white is pretty clean. Again, there's more options for adjusting curves for brake, clutch, and throttle. There are options in here if you was to have a dash, which we do not have. Again, we do not have the hub, but that is in here. The HGP Shifter, which is what we do have. Again, you can see everything is recognized. You can calibrate all of your gear in here. It's very, very good. We do not have the sequential gearbox. I'm not sure where I'd mount it, but maybe we'll look at that one day. The handbrake, so something to note with the handbrake, you can have the axis or you can adjust it for button. Now, depending on what game you want to play, if you're playing Truck Sim, you're going to want that to be in button. If you're wanting to play rallying, you're going to want that to be axis. and you can adjust everything there like so. Then there's an easy way to keep everything up to date. You can do a one click to upgrade all, and it will update all of your things to the latest firmware. The Moza Pit House is very good, just as their gear is also very, very good. Let's go ahead and take the truck wheel off, and we'll go and attach a different wheel just to show you something a little bit different. And this is a close-up look of the KS steering wheel. Now all of the lights are on, and you can see the RPM indicator there just flash because we're not currently in a game racing, but all the lights are on. I'm trying to get it to focus as best I can because they look absolutely incredible. I genuinely love the look of this wheel. It looks amazing. So now let's take a quick look at what I use for Formula One racing. Now, disclaimer, I am trash at these games. This isn't about the gameplay, it's about the experience. And my one only gripe is now because I use the clutch with the handbrake and the shifter, I don't have as much room for when I'm left foot braking. So it means I have to move my left foot over a little bit, and it's a little bit uncomfortable. I'd like to see perhaps the pedals be a little bit wider and be able to place the brake pedal a little bit further away from the throttle, so I have a little bit more room just so I can still play truck games and use my manual shifter and clutch, but then also do some Formula One sim racing and be able to left foot brake without having my left foot at a weird angle. Of course, the game puts us onto a wet spa, which is not great when people decide to ram into you. But this wheel is amazing if you're into sort of Formula One racing or GT cars. This is the wheel that you need. It's absolutely incredible. It feels so good to use. I must admit, it's one of the most comfortable wheels that I've ever used. I used to use a Thrustmaster wheel before this, and there's no comparison. Yes, there is a massive price difference between the two, so it's to be expected. But again, I can only talk about my experiences with the things that I've used in the gear that I have. And this wheel is fantastic. I've just brought you in on a closer zoom shot here so you can see the RPM indicator in action, because this part of the wheel is actually amazing. We are still on a wet spa and my car is going all over the place, but you can see that in action there. If I just let the revs rise, and it will flash red when it's definitely time to change gear. So if we just go ahead and drop it down a gear, you'll see that there. And you can hear it in the game as well. Change gear, it will climb. You'll hit the rev limiter, and then it's going to indicate you to shift upwards. And now finally, let's take a look at this wheel with some drifting so you can see the handbrake and the manual shifter in action. And you know what I said about it's the experience and not the skills? The same applies to this. Don't judge. Again, let's get a little close-up of the wheel. You can see these lights are actually individually coloured because that's how I've gone ahead and set it. So we've got purple down here, red, blue. It's way more vibrant in person than what I can get across on camera, so I do apologise for that. But this is how the wheel looks when it's all lit up. And of course, we do get the RPM indicator here as well. It's just overall an amazing wheel. So guys, I know this has been a long video. We've taken a look at every single piece of equipment, how it all works, how it all looks, and how it performs with a very mediocre driver behind the wheel. My final thoughts and opinions on Moza and all the equipment that I have, this stuff is incredible. Again, I do have limited experience with sim racing gear. I previously used to use Thrustmaster, but this stuff blows the old stuff out of the water by far. I know it's not the cheapest equipment out there, but honestly, if you have a sim rig or you're looking to get into sim racing, truck sim, drifting, or whatever it might be, Moza has you covered with an array of wheels, an array of bases, and an array of accessories, which really do take the experience to a whole nother level. I hope the video has been somewhat informative. If you do have any further questions, leave them down below in the comments and I'll be sure to get back to you. And if you have any ideas on further videos that you'd like to see, leave them down below in the comments and maybe we can work something out and I'll shoot some more content based on whatever it is you want to see. But guys, that's going to do it for this one. A huge thanks to Moza for sending out all of this equipment, which has taken my sim racing and truck sim experience to a whole new level. I absolutely love all of this equipment and I'm very, very happy with it all. Thank you so much for clicking and watching this one. And if you made it till this far, you're an absolute legend. Until the next one, I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Still can't drift.